Shady has two teams in the Super Bowl, the team that drafted him and the team that won him his ring. But when we talk about the team that drafted him, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're led by quarterback Jalen Hurts. And so much is on the line for Hurts, but most importantly for me, what's on the line? It's the narrative. See, nobody is talking about the fact that Jalen Hurts hasn't played a good playoff game yet. And we don't have to talk about that because he's in the Super Bowl, so it's irrelevant. But get this. If they don't win the Super Bowl, people are going to start to scrutinize some of these numbers. People are going to take out that microscope and really start to look deep and say, wait, Hurts, a 58% completion percentage, 177 passing yards, 37 rushing yards, 3-to-2 touchdown interception ratio. Wait a second, Hurts, a 77 passer rating, and league average is up around 89. If Hurts does not win, then all of a sudden, we aren't necessarily going to rewrite history, but we are going to take way too critical a look at history. We're going to overlook the wins and losses and only look at how Hurts has performed. So Hurts needs to win because the narrative of who Jalen Hurts has been in the playoffs will be under a lot more scrutiny if he does not get the W in the Super Bowl. You know how it goes, Dave Helman. Isn't it the victors, the winners, they write history?
Yeah, the winners write history.
The winners write history. As it is right now, Jalen Hurts is writing history. He's writing history however he wants it to be done. But if the Eagles and Hurts do not win, then he won't be the one writing that story. Other people will. LeSean McCoy, you're the Eagles' all-time rushing leader. I say that as often as I can because it deserves that kind of respect. But what's on the line for Jalen Hurts in this game?
Joy, it wasn't easy. On your monologue, you said something interesting. You said the narrative. And I think what's that line is the narrative. A storybook ending, right? Jalen Hurts went to Alabama, right? And then he was dominant at first. SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
Then he gets demoted in the championship game for Tua. Then he transfers, goes to Oklahoma, has a pretty good year, right? Leaves in the second round. Now in Philadelphia, people weren't happy about that pick. I'm gonna be honest. They actually were disappointed that they got Jalen Hurts in the second round. Had to overcome that. First year was whatever. Then he became who he is. Now today he's Jalen Hurts. One win away from a Super Bowl. So I think the narrative for this would be like some Hollywood story. Beating all the odds, getting counted out, gets knocked down, gets back up, gets knocked down, gets back up. I think that if he can go out here and get a win, that would be a great story to tell. I mean, in Philadelphia, you know, they write stories about this.
Yep.
So I think this what he has at stake is more just a storyline of a great story.
Shady, personalize it for a second. Your final year in the league was with who?
Was the Bucks.
Bucks. Y'all won the Super Bowl.
Bang.
Last year in the league, LeSean McCoy, you won a Super Bowl. But you went through all of off-season team activities, all the OTAs, all the minicamp, all of training camp, the entire season. Y'all started off 7-5. It was not pretty.
Right.
But you won a Super Bowl. So it was all worth it. Had you lost that Super Bowl, how would that have changed how you viewed your last season?
That would have been tough. I think if I'd have lost that game, I'd probably come back another time, another team to try to get a Super Bowl run. And then, like, the cool thing is everybody puts so much into it, right? And I didn't play a lot, you know, my last year. It was more like a mentor, a veteran in the locker room. But I seen the ups and downs from Rojo, Ronald Jones, the running back. He was a starting running back. And I seen Leonard Fournette up and down, you know, competing every week. One game he's hot, other game he's hot. Seeing guys like Chris Godwin battling through injury, you know, and then later in the year he turned it on. Mike Evans, at one point, was the only wide receiver playing. Gronk was talking about how his body was, you know, some days he felt good, some days he felt bad from all the years of the hits and the surgeries. Tom Brady, Tom was 40 years old, right? See him every day practicing. So it's like we put all that into it. And then it was an up and down season. We finally got together, and at the end, it's like, it was all worth it.
Yep.
You got that ring, that the confetti dropped down, you know, grown men is crying, kids is running, and you think about your career. I think about all from the rushing titles to the All-Pros, the Pro Bowls, to doing all that and not winning, to doing all that to winning. Antonio Brown, I know he went off the cliff for a little bit, but when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we talked about all the success that he had and I had. Him and Le'Veon Bell and Ben Roethlisberger, all the great times the Steelers had, all the All-Pros he had, all the years he had, you know, Triple Crowns, et cetera, but no championship. Yeah. So that was the best thing. When you even asked that question, it made me think about how everybody was pouring into what they've been through. From high school, some guys never won in high school, right? All the way from high school to the NFL, you finally get your chance to win a Super Bowl. and you can rejoice like, wow, we really did it. You can't take that away from us.
It's fascinating because Shady played 12 years in the league, if I'm not mistaken, and says he would have played another one had he not won a ring.
So to get a ring.
That is how important winning a ring when you have the opportunity to win a ring is. Dave Helman, coming to you right now, knowing that a Super Bowl championship is on the line, how much pressure is on Jalen Hurts to get it and why?
A ton of pressure. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. We get that. It's the reason that we all do this. It's this game. But I think Tom Brady, and now to a lesser degree Patrick Mahomes, have kind of ruined our perception of how fleeting this whole thing is. I mean, because, you get used to seeing the Patriots do this 10 times in 20 years. It doesn't feel as special from an outsider's perspective, but it's really, really hard to get to this game. And it's really, really meaningful when you win it. I mean, think about, outside of the greatness of Tom Brady and now to a lesser degree the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs, think about what we've seen from some of the NFL's best in recent memory. I mean, Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl in year 3. Has he been back? No. The answer is no. In case you forgot. Russell Wilson was on some iconic teams.
Yeah.
They caught lightning in a bottle. They went to 2 games. They only won once, and he hasn't been back.
Correct.
Drew Brees was in this game 1 time.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed a second shot at this. Famously, Dan Marino, the greatest quarterback to never win a ring. Second year, never sniffed it again. It's easy to think that the Eagles will be back in this game because they're loaded. We thought that about their last Super Bowl team. Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate, and we were like, well, it sucks for Carson that he didn't really get to be the quarterback in this game, but he'll have another chance. How'd that work out? Jalen Hurts took his place. A year after Carson Wentz signed his mega extension, not even a full calendar year, the Eagles drafted his eventual replacement, and now they're in the Super Bowl with him. Like, you've got to be great on an iconic level to be making regular appearances in this game. It's not to say Jalen Hurts can't do that, but you damn sure shouldn't take it for granted. And think about how much easier your career gets if you check that box in
early.
Get it out of the way, man. And that is the pressure that's on Jalen Hurts right now. It's not to say your career will be defined by this game, but the arc of your career and the narrative of it. I mean, Nick Foles had 1 Pro Bowl season, but you know what he's got? Not only a ring, but a damn statue in Philadelphia. That's what happens when you win a game of this magnitude.
Only him and Rocky, by the way. We love
Both
Rocky.
the real
there.
people. Joy Taylor, a lot on the line for Jalen Hurts. So how much pressure is on the line for this QB?
Well, like they've said, it's the Super Bowl, so there's pressure on everybody. But Patrick Mahomes has earned a little grace in this space, being here as much as he has, and winning a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP and multiple league MVPs. Right. We've put him into that space that the Patriots were in, where they are going to be contenders every year. And a lot of things have to fall in line in order for you to do that. But life comes at you fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ask the Niners. Ask Emmanuel Acho and the Niners. It happens like this. You think you're rolling. You think you've got the same team coming back. You think you're going to win these games that you're expected to win. You get one injury, one lineman, one thing falls apart. Somebody gets fired, and it's a completely different situation. So you have to take advantage of these opportunities. There's a reason why we speak about Super Bowls with that lore, because it's so hard. So many things have to go right. Some things have to go wrong. For other people, you have to step up in the biggest moments. You have to get breaks throughout the season in order to just get to this game. So you have to take advantage of these moments when you have the opportunity to win them. But for Jalen Hurts specifically, again, I don't understand where the doubt still comes from. I wasn't sure about Jalen in the beginning. I think he's a completely different player this year than he was last year. I think he's done more than enough to secure himself a starting position with Philadelphia or for somewhere else in the league, the way that he's played this year. But to win a Super Bowl, that'll just close the book on that. That'll close the book on all that conversation, all that doubt of if you're capable of just winning the big game. Like, if you perform the way that he's performed all season long, and you brought up in your monologue the numbers that he's had in the postseason, he performed the way he is all season long, then have the postseason run and win the championship. None of that matters. Nobody's going to bring those up.
Correct.
Because you have a whole legitimate season. You have a whole chapter and resume to show what you're capable of doing.
Real quick, Dave, let me think about this for a second. Shady, you were literally on the field, so you can speak to it. Patrick Mahomes, he has played 8 quarters of Super Bowl games. 8 quarters. 2 games, 8 quarters. He's only played one good quarter.
Yeah.
The fourth quarter of LeSean McCoy's first Super Bowl, that was the only good quarter of the 8 that Patrick Mahomes has played in the Super Bowls. But we don't talk about that because he won it.
Yep.
Jimmy G had 2 bad passes, but really one notable one. That bad pass, Emmanuel Sanders misses him, streaking wide open, likely would have put the game away against the Super Bowl that LeSean McCoy won. But because Jimmy G lost, not only do we talk about that pass, we go back and say, wait a second. You know against the Vikings, Jimmy G only threw the ball 7 times. Wait a second. You know against the Packers, Jimmy G only threw the ball 13 times.
Yeah.
So now we
true.
retroactively, and obviously I'm being a little hyperbolic. I don't have the numbers directly ahead of me, but Jimmy G did underwhelm in those games leading up to that Super Bowl game. We retroactively start to examine how bad were you since you was bad. Jalen Hurts, I think people will all of these skeptics, all let a little, the roaches that hide when the light's out. When the lights come on, you're just going to see people scattering because if Jalen Hurts underwhelms Dave Helman, that's where my thought process is. People are now going to start to examine, wait a second, he ain't had a good playoff game yet, and he's played 4 of them. Elaborate on that point because you write those articles.
And Jalen, and it's not a knock for me, but I think people will say this, like Jalen doesn't win the way that people want to see a franchise quarterback win. You know, the rushing is a huge part of it. He makes their ground game go. He's got like 18 quarterback sneak touchdowns. I'm exaggerating, but like not by a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. It's a lot.
Like,
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. If he struggles in this game, particularly as a passer, and I would bet the Chiefs are going to do everything they can to make him win as a passer, because I think that's the weaker component of his game. Yeah, I think a narrative forms there. And to the point I made earlier, I think Jalen Hurts has done more than enough to be the Eagles' quarterback of the future. But how much better would they feel knowing that he's already delivered the ultimate goal to them? Because that's, again, going back to this all being so fleeting. Yes, this team is great. I think they're positioned to do this again next year. But Darius Slay and Lane Johnson have astronomical cap hits. How much longer does Jason Kelsey want to play?
Right.
At some point, you got to talk about a contract for a guy like Devontae Smith. James Bradbury doesn't have a long-term future.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to put a Super Bowl team together year after year, and Jalen Hurts is cheap right now, by the way. If they don't win this game, and now you're saying he will make it harder for us to put a good team together sooner rather than later, this all goes together. That's why there is an enormous amount of pressure on Jalen Hurts to just get this box checked, man. You can get your statue. You don't have to worry about any of that.
It all kicks off Super Bowl Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.